Welcome everyone again to the Tuesday Night Smite podcast, to episode 4, which is this week obviously. My name is the Robbie Dog. I'm joined today as always by Sabo and Psycho, and today we're going to be discussing week 4 of the SPL summer split that happened last weekend. And for that topic we're going to start as always with the EU side, and for that I'm going to throw the word to Psycho.
EU was actually really interesting this week. All games were interesting this week because a lot of upsets. But EU specifically, we saw two, in my opinion, greatest sets. NRG splitting with Dignitas and Rival splitting with Obey.
Yeah, and those were both the sets on Thursday. So we had a good start to the week, like with Rival against Obey, and we had a good end to Thursday with a duel between arguably two of the best EU teams, maybe the two best EU teams in the world, in the region right now, between NRG and Dig, obviously.
Yeah, top 4 teams splitting with each other. It's not much of a surprise coming out of Europe this week. I think the biggest surprise is that we didn't actually get to see which of these 4 teams are odds-on favorites, or above, in that class above the others.
Yeah, I think it's time we start questioning sort of whether anyone's actually a clear class above the others right now, because we've seen pretty much only splits between the top 4 in EU, I think. Or am I remembering something wrong here?
No, I think Energy and Obey split. I think Rival and Energy split. Am I right? Or did Energy do a Rival?
I think they split.
Okay, yeah. So they split, and so the only team in those 4 to come out with a 2-0 against one of the others happened on Saturday, where Dig 2-0's Rival. So there's no real cut. There's no clear cut number 1 there. Dig technically locks in that number 1 spot for DreamHack, but numbers are one thing. The eye test is a completely different experience. It's too close to call.
Dignitas lost their first game of the split this week, and it was surprisingly to NRG. Or, if I should say surprisingly.
Well, were you really surprised by that? Because I predicted a split for that set, honestly. You can see it on Twitter.
Yeah. I don't know about
just
that.
See Chronos. That's all I wanted. Like 2 games of Chronos, that's a dream.
Yeah, EU really favors their magical ADCs this week, didn't they? I think we saw all 3 of them in the ADC role at some point this week from EU.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, both NRG games on the first day were magical ADCs, the first one being Freya and the second one Chronos. I was really happy when I saw those picks.
It's always fun to see something different coming out of these teams.
No, like Chronos is the god. Like you gotta have Chronos.
I did like the what was it? Was it Dignitas who had Chronos against Energy, and Zyros had the Energy Chronos skin to troll them with?
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
That's always funny to see. I also like seeing the Epsilon Soul being used against Energy as well.
Well, but the second game it turned around and Emilio showed them why they have the skin.
Yeah. Because go ahead.
I was just saying it's a fun week. It was a fun week to watch Energy. If you're an Energy fan, you had a really good week to watch. Emilito's builds were, I want to say, trolly, because we saw Swiftwing a couple times.
Lifting sold for War Flag, yeah.
The War Flag. So, yes, they went 3-1 this week. So it's always good to see your team win, but getting to see your team win and play these crazy picks, it's even better experience as a fan.
Yeah, and I think they really showed up this week, as you mentioned, because a 3-1 going into this week was definitely not a guarantee, right? Dig is the top has the top spot in EU for a good reason, because they have looked extremely solid this entire split. I think they've only had 2 splits so far against other teams.
Nah, they had 5-0 before they lost the first game to NRG.
Oh yeah,
they've
right,
only split.
Right.
They've only split with Energy, and then they have Obey coming up this week.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
of course. So they've looked obviously extremely good, right? And I think a lot of people, like Psycho probably was as well, if I remember correctly, were expecting a 2-0 for Dig from that set. So getting any points out of that is a good thing for NRG, if we look at it from that lens.
I actually didn't. I didn't have predictions on Twitter for that day, but I had it 1-1.
Oh, okay.
I think we all had a split for that set.
I remember we had one difference, Sabo, you and me, on first day. But I don't remember which one it was.
Now looking at it, Robbie had a split and Sabo had 2-0 to Dignitas.
See?
Oh, did I?
Told you. I knew someone predicted it wrong.
I thought I had predicted an NA split wrong, which I probably did.
Yeah, I predicted everything wrong about NA this week. But we will get to that later on. So, well, what else is there to talk about in EU? Or do you want do we want to talk some more about these 2 teams, Energy and Dig?
No, I just want to say a quick thing. Every game we've seen in NRG, I think they actually haven't lost a set. And it's always like they kind of sleep game 1 and then game 2 they get mad and take it over. That's what it's been like the whole split. NRG.
So what you're saying is they should be good for LAN.
I should be.
Go ahead.
It's like best of 3 and best of 5 sets. If they do what they did, and they can afford to lose game 1 if then they do what they did in the split and bounce back.
Well, we've touched on this Energy situation before. All 5 members of the team are 2-time world champions, and they all have that skill to dominate in this league. We've seen it before. It was just when or if they were going to show up for Season 4, and they've looked a lot better this split than they did in the spring split. You know, just the record says it all. I mean, they've already locked up a DreamHack spot, whereas they had to go through the gauntlet for the master spot, and the rival beat them in the gauntlet. To me, it was always a win. When is it going to happen? It's going to happen. Just when is it going to happen? Getting this split with Dig could be a sign of Energy finally getting their feet under them in Season 4. They first picked Demi's solo lane a couple times this week, so they gave Demi the matchup he wants. Adapting is starting to return to the Adapt King.
Oh my, the sets against Babbies was...
Yeah, that was disgusting.
I mean, they're all...
25-0.
Yeah, that Adapting had a really great week, and just the team as a whole is starting to look like they're finding their groove, and it's a very scary idea or scary thought for the rest of actually the entire world.
Yeah, because I think that's what everyone's sort of afraid of, or the other teams are afraid of, and what everyone else is sort of expecting is finally a return to actual form for NRG, because they're still not back at that level they had during both of their World Championship wins, if we look at it.
But they're starting to look that way. That's the key.
Yeah, they're starting to climb back up there. And if they reach it again, it's again going to be tough for anyone else to really stop them.
In the last week, they'll actually facing Enix, so that should be also an interesting set. And it should tell us a bit about NRG again.
See, that Enix said Enix did lose a game to Elevate, so Enix does have to 2-0 energy to get in. But they would also have to have rival split with Elevate, which we've seen Elevate take the game off of Enix, so it's Elevate can take a game off a rival. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think Elevate's a good enough team that they can take a game off a rival. But Enix 2-0ing energy, we're still needing the 2-0 energy because a split doesn't help Enix. That's what's the key there. Energy, like we said, continues to get better and return to their own form. Enix doesn't have a shot.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see, honestly, if they manage to get over that first game curse that they seem to have, energy, where they play a bit worse, or if Enix can abuse that fact, which I guess we can call it a fact, and get a win through that. And also, as you said, obviously, Elevate has a chance against Rival to take at least one game off. We saw Poppies catch them on the wrong foot and take one game of them in week 3. So I wouldn't rule anything out as far as Rival's concerned, right? Because they have shown some inconsistencies. They have shown some weaker games than we've seen from the rest of the top 4 EU teams. Like one of those was the one we saw this week, for example, against Obey, because the first game in their set against Obey was absolutely terrible.
Yeah, game 1 was rough for them. I think I don't want to say they got out-drafted as much as they did. Just Obey outplayed them, but it was not a good showing. The game 2 was a much better. Well, obviously they won, but it was a much better showing from them against the top competition. But we say this about North America, and we're going to say it again later on: the inconsistencies. And Rival and Enix have been inconsistent to me out of those top teams in EU.
Game 1 of Rival versus Obey. I actually think it was a 10-minute and a few seconds when Rival surrendered.
Yeah, it was 10 minutes and 9 seconds into the game.
Yeah, game 1 was for Rival.
Yeah, and Obey was already sitting at 12 kills at that point in time. So it was rough.
Game 2, though, it was a really, really long game, around 40 minutes. In the end, it worked out for Rival, and they found the split.
Yeah, weirdly enough, when you look at the stats from that game, Obey only managed to get 4 kills, but from what I saw, it always seemed like they had a chance to get back into it somehow. But in the end, it just didn't really happen.
Yeah, we have seen some games in NA that went this way. But we should talk about it later.
Yeah. Sabo, do you have anything to say about that set, Obey against Rival?
No more than what I've said. Like Rival, really tough in game one. Obviously, 12-0 and was surrender at 10 minutes.
It was 12-1. 12-1.
Yeah, they got
12
one
to
kill.
1. Wow, could have fooled me. But yeah, like I said, it's not so much that they get out drafted as much as they get outplayed. Because in that scenario, that situation, if you're down 12 to 1 and surrendering at 9 minutes, you did something wrong. And it may not be the draft. But no, I don't have anything else to say about them.
Yeah, so what
I do.
Go ahead.
I do think we need to give Obey a little bit more time than we usually give them, because these players like Captain Twig and I almost said Variety, God, but Captain Twig and Ataraxia, Pretty Palm, they're quietly they're a lot quiet in the summer split than they were in the spring split, but they're quietly still there. We don't give them as much airtime as we do Dignitas or any of the other top teams. And I think it's like I said, Obey is quietly still there, and they're not doing anything flashy that makes them stand out week to week, but they're definitely still one of the best teams in the world.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone who's really denying that right now, right? Because they've also looked good, they just haven't looked anything that we weren't expecting from them, honestly. So I think that's why they're getting a bit less attention, is because they're just doing what they're supposed to do.
Well, when you touch upon Obey, I actually wasn't really impressed by their first game against Burrito on Saturday, because it was a really close game for about half an hour, and then Obey started running away with it.
That's two things to me. That's Obey not taking Burrito seriously, and it's Burrito getting better week in, week out. So I don't think
that game had a Freya ADC as well.
I know we saw a Soul ADC. Was that just Snoopy, or did somebody in Europe run it as well?
I'm honestly not sure.
Oh yeah, same there.
Oh yeah, Warchi apparently played it against NRG in a game where they also only got one kill.
Ouch.
We kind of do the same thing with Obey as we do with LG. We just assume that they were the top of their respective regions, and we just kind of pass them over. And we have plenty to talk about as far as luminosity goes, and not so much about Obey, because Obey has done nothing out of the expected from them.
Yeah, I think that sums it up pretty nicely, right? Because, as I said, they're doing what we're expecting them to, even though they might look not perfect in some individual games in sets at times, but overall they're still looking like a top EU team. So I think Obey's still on a good path.
Yeah, I'm just repeating what you said, but there's nothing else to really add to what you already said about Obey.
Well, we'll see this week if Ataraxia pulls out Giannis ADC again, because they're already locked into DreamHack, and so they don't have really anything to play for. Dignitas is already the number one seed. There's a tiebreaker for second and third between Energy and Obey, but that's a whole other story. If Energy 2-0s Enix, Obey will have to 2-0 Dignitas in response, but that Dignitas and Obey set should be a fun one to watch if you're just a fan of the SPL and high level Smite, because there's going to be a lot of crazy picks in that one. Might even see Trixtank run the Platinum Ninja support.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see some Jag, honestly, because it would be really fun. But I'm not sure if they're gonna pull it out or if they're really gonna focus on getting the best seeding possible. Because for Obey, it's still relevant, right? They still want to get 3 points so they manage to actually stay ahead of Energy.
I think Obey and Dignitas are the third or fourth set of this game of the week on Saturday, and Enix and Energy are in that second set. So Energy 2-0s, it could still be up. They could still finish above Energy. If not, then we could see some jank picks. But I do expect Energy to take this week seriously and just put Enix out of their misery, because Enix needs the 2-0 and have rival split. Rival wins, they're in. Enix does not control their own destiny, and it's against Energy. So Energy, like I said, I expect Energy to 2-0 Enix. That's my one prediction for the week.
I really want to see a tiebreaker though. Like seeing more Obey versus NRG can never hurt.
Yeah, I think if both 2-0, we're still gonna see that, right? Because they went, they split in the head-to-head, if I'm not mistaken.
And they're tied in standings right now. They both have the same number of points. So if Energy 2-0s and then Obey 2-0s Dig, you can't catch Dig in the standings, but they'll both still be tied. So there'll be a tiebreaker because they did split in the head-to-head matchup.
Yeah, so that could be fun as well, because then it's actually gonna really matter for seeding. Right, a direct head-to-head for second seed would be fun to watch, honestly.
So game 2 between Obey and Dig is what really the one that could come to jank picks, because if Dig takes that first win, everything's decided. If Energy 2-0s Enix, Energy will be that 2 seed, Obey will be the 3 seed. And so you could see some fun picks in game 2 if it turns out that way. Who knows? Maybe Ataraxia and Maniac switch roles, and we see Sylvanas solo from Ataraxia.
Or maybe something like Guan Yu Jungle.
I don't know. Is DJ playing for Obey now?
Hey, let's make one thing clear. Guan Yu Jungle is not a troll pick.
Apparently, neither is Aphrodite Jungle.
Where's hell?
And something worth mentioning as well. Aphrodite is definitely a counter to Bakasura in the solo lane.
Yeah, just tell DM Brandon and Cyclone spin that.
Yeah, I know. That was the point.
Shout out to High-Res Pros versus Pros Spring Fling in Season 2.
I hope we get something like that again, because that was hilarious.
Still didn't get TM versus Flashpoint. I'm still waiting.
Oh yeah, that as well.
The 5-man invade, yeah, that was funny.
Yeah. Okay, so, but seriously now, we've got more stuff to discuss. Because I think we haven't touched yet on Dig 2-0ing Rival, and on Elevate taking a game off of Enix, which are both also things that happened this week. What did you think about that?
Well, Dig 2-0ing Rival, where Dig still had something to play for. Yeah, they with the split against Energy, they had wrapped up their DreamHack spot, but they didn't have the number one seed wrapped up. So Dig 2-0ing Ravel in a game that really in a set that really mattered to Dig. Not as surprising to me as it would probably be to the two of you, because, like I said, Dig still had something to play for. Elevate taking game off. Enix, however, I've been high on Elevate for almost the entire split now. I said that they could play the spoiler role, and that's exactly what they did, because they've made it very, very hard for Enix to make DreamHack at this point.
Well, at the start of the season, I saw Elevate as from last split. I thought they would be the split machine again. They split with NRG when they were like at the top. And I think also with Obey back then. And now they repeated with Enix.
Yeah, so they got some splits this split, but not nearly as many as in the spring, right? Because in the spring they were splitting with almost everyone, as far as I remember. But they're still looking like they're on the uptrend, if you ask me, because, well, just because they are. Not much more to it.
They're definitely going up. Do they crack that top 5? I mean, it's possible, but they still got a lot of work to do. I mean, Obey, Dignitas, Energy, Rival, they're all still considered for the top teams in the world. So Elevate's definitely got some work ahead of them, but they are on the upward trend. Whereas Enix, I feel, is on the downward trend. Enix has been a letdown since week 1. Week 1, they came out that looked really good, and since then they just, I don't know, I feel like saying every time I watch them. That's the reaction I have,
Well, honestly, I think they're more of a letdown because we were hyping them up so much, right? It's not really their fault that they're not able to live up to their performance in the first week. Because looking from a point of view before the start of the split, I wouldn't have expected much more out of Enix than what we actually saw now.
Yeah, the first week I thought Enix would be the top team in Europe, but it has really just been the first week, and the rest was a letdown for me. But yeah, it's exactly as you said. Just hyped them up too much and managed to be that good. Bad way to say it, but it sums it up.
Well, that being said, I got to give credit where credit's due. Elevate, taking that second game really came down to them just taking that fire giant off Enix there at the end. The game was close, but you still just, I really believe that Enix had a slight lead over Elevate there in game 2, and then when Elevate took that fire giant and just rolled from there. So, I guess what I'm saying is, Elevate played up to what we were expecting them. Phoenix hadn't dropped that fire giant, we could have realistically seen a very much more interesting last week from EU than what it's shaping up to be.
No, actually, back to the start, we saw Fun Bowler on Chronos game 1 and on Soul game 2.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah, okay.
more souls.
I knew somebody. So we've seen all
Chronos,
three.
That's what I'm looking at.
We've seen all 3 magical ADCs make a return this week in Europe. Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
So what I just want to say about this set as well is I think what you said is right, that Elevate maybe got a bit lucky in game 2, or it was just fortunate circumstances for them, and that in your average set between those two teams, this wouldn't necessarily happen, right? I would say that probably like 6 or 7 out of 10 sets these two will play in this current condition, that Enix would end up 2-0ing Elevate. Because I would still rate them as the better team as of right now, even though they've looked weaker than the other top 4 in EU.
As the better team, sure, but as the best team, no.
Yeah, the best team, not.
Yep.
See,
That was just
Enix's only advantage over Elevate, in my opinion, is their mid lane, whose name escapes me right now. Lobster, yeah. Lobster is a better player than Nulissa. I think everywhere else you can make a case for, both teams. Obviously, the Bruce brothers against Big Man Tings and Fun Baller. The experience goes to Big Man Tings and Fun Ballers because Fun Baller's been playing forever, but the Bruce brothers have played together for going on, 2 seasons now? So that's a wash, in my opinion. And then Cherio and Fails. Fails is considered the better player right now, but Cherio is considered to be the one with the higher ceiling. So that could be a wash. And then Ducky and No Numbers, I think, are two very similar, closely skilled, leveled-wise players. So Nulissa and Lobster is really the only difference I see between Enix and Elevate.
See, in their current form, I would put Fails ahead of Cherio and Funball ahead of Germain. Even though both are good, right, in both roles. But I'd give a slight edge to the Enix side.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, as a duo lane, Funballer and Big Man Tings have not been together as long as the Bruce brothers, Jermaine and Dardes. So, even though Funballers has played for as long as he has, I think that new duo lane compared to a duo lane that's been together for a while kind of makes that even. And as you said, in the current form, in their current condition, Fails is better than Cherio. But Cherio has long been considered the player between the two that will have the higher ceiling, that can reach a higher level than Fails can. And so, yes, right now Fails is the better player. Popular opinion is Cherio is the best is the better of the player in those two in the long run.
Well,
yeah, but
also,
that's the thing.
Go ahead.
In the long run, but we're talking about now and how Enix and Elevate look now.
Well, Roby also brought up the fact that 6 or 7 games out of 10 games Enix would win, and I'm just saying it's a lot closer than probably that. It's probably 5 or 6 games. It's probably closer to 50-50 than it would be Enix favoring. Enix being favored over Elevate. But again, I'm high on Elevate. I've been high on this roster since Cherio joined. So it just could be my bias.
yeah, I think it might be because if I'm being honest, I haven't seen anything too impressive from Cherio ever since Season 2 Regionals, I think, where he looked amazing.
Again, I'm not trying to put Cherio over Fails. Fails right now is the better player. I'm saying popular opinion throughout the community is the fact that if Cherio had better conditions to play the game, Cherio would be the higher skilled player.
Yeah, but I don't
But
think
he doesn't have that.
I don't think you can be certain of that, though. Or are you just saying that it's the community's opinion and not yours? Or what are you saying?
It's a little bit of both. I'm thinking it's a little bit of both because I do share the same opinion as most of the community. does when it comes to Cherio. Cherio is a player that is well worth having on your team if he didn't have those ping issues that he gets from Egypt, or if he had a better situation in which to play the game.
Yeah, but what I'm asking myself, as far as LAN is concerned, how many LANs have we seen Cherio go to now, and how many has he actually stepped up his game massively to the point where he would be over a top performing Fails?
Well, I can ask you the same question. How many lands has Fails went to? Has Fails ever been to a land?
Well, do we have a reason to assume that he will be a lot worse on LAN than he is online?
No, we don't. But
Yeah, we don't.
never been to a land, that's what I'm saying. Cherio's been there. Cherio's been on teams where even with his situation, he has made it to land.
Gauntlet is a LAN, isn't it?
Yeah, Gauntlet kind of counts.
Gauntlet does kind of count.
But what I just mean is, if you bring up this ping issue that Cherio has as one of the reasons why he performs better on LAN, then you sort of have to have evidence of him actually consistently performing a lot better on LAN to back that up with, and I don't think we have seen that since Season 2 Regionals.
He was Sanguine's best player in Super Regionals last year.
Well, it's
when they lost.
Yeah, it is Sanguine.
Yeah, but they still made Super Regionals, so you got to give it. And mostly due to the fact that the Cherio was on the team, so you have to give them at least a little bit of credit for making Super Regionals. Cherio being a big part of that team.
Yeah, you certainly can. I think. Just I still have an issue with everyone, including you, sort of hooking Cherio up, or just taking Cherio as one of the best LAN players based on what I would consider outlier performance that he had at Season 2 Regionals, because it hasn't repeated itself really. So I don't think there's much relevance to it anymore.
I see what you're saying, but I'm also remembering Annister and Lannister and his reputation going into all these lands until they won the world championship in season. Very much known as somebody who does not play as well at lands as he does online. And Annister put that to bed with a championship run. I'm not saying Cherio will be in that same caliber, but it's possible that these players can overcome their LAN jitters, their LAN troubles.
Well, I don't think Cherio's issue is that he has LAN jitters. I just don't think he's that good. Like massively.
Well, let's agree to disagree. We're beating a dead horse at this point. Let's just agree to disagree.
Yeah, all right. We'll discuss it at some other point, maybe. We'll see. If he makes it to LAN again, we will discuss it again. See how he performs.
Remember when Fails was named Jungler?
Oh yeah, that was a thing. Wasn't he pretty terrible back then?
Leftovers, which became Sanguine.
Well, there is Mike the Magikarp. You can't forget about him. So.
Let's not talk about him, please. Like
Jungle
all due respect to him, but there's a reason he's not in the SPL anymore.
I'll give him credit though. He's never going to be forgotten as long as the game still exists. Scab Jungle's one of the more unique picks we've ever seen. So he's not going to be forgotten.
Just wait until Weekend brings it out.
Please don't.
So, anyway. Which game haven't we touched on yet? I think those are all of them that we have marked down.
All
For
EU
you.
games.
Yeah, well, all the ones that we have marked down as being relevant, honestly. Because the other two we saw were just the clearly favored team beating the other one. More specifically, that was Obey beating Burrito and Energy beating Poppies.
Yeah, we talked a bit about both also. Just touched on them, but I don't think there is much to say.
Yeah, it's also the same thing with Obey in general. It was what we expected. So,
yeah.
I think one thing worth discussing before we go into this last week, that is going to happen this week, obviously, is what the DreamHack situation is like for the EU teams right now. Because we've already touched upon it a bit, but who still has chances of going to DreamHack?
Only two left are Rival and Enix, and we've kind of gone over both situations. It's simple for Rival. You win, and you're in. Enix, it gets a little bit harder. Enix has 2-0 energy, and then have a Rival split, and then Enix is in. Enix cannot split with energy. They cannot afford a split, because Rival does have that 2-0 head-to-head victory over them. Any tiebreaker goes in Rival's favor. So Enix has the 2-0 to get in. So it's much more simpler in EU than it is in NA. I'll just say that.
Yeah, because EU teams are actually consistent.
EU teams are actually good.
Yeah, that as well.
We got one consistent team.
Yeah, I mentioned that as well. On everywhere I could.
Yeah, if you've checked out our Twitter this past weekend, you'll definitely know who we're talking about.
Well,
Wait,
he has Burrito.
Hey, they might still take a game off of Poppies. You never know.
And Flashpoint is done.
Well, without going too much into Flashpoint, the difference between them and Burrito is Burrito has looked like they belong.
Like they're improving. Flashpoint is just Flashpoint.
Touched on this earlier. They had control of the game one against Obey for almost 30 minutes. Flashpoint has not had control of the game at all this split. There have been times where they were close to being in control, but never clearly in control of the game.
Yeah. I think there was one GIF that's sort of indicative of Flashpoint's performance this split. I'll see if I can find it.
Well,
So
we've obviously made the transition to NA, so let's just go ahead and talk about NA. Some of the smaller points of this week, Monkey Madness, or what was formerly Monkey Madness, is now sponsored by Space Station Gaming. In Memory of Gabe also got sponsored by Trifecta this week. Nothing really too much to talk about at that, other than they just got sponsors. Noble was eliminated from DreamHack this week. Kind of a letdown to me, because we talked about Noble at length last week and how good they performed against ALG and E United last week, and we thought they were riding a high that they would actually win out and make it to DreamHack, but Divios, Aurora, and the boys said no. We're still a good team. Noble. They stomped Noble in that first game. What is it, 20-6? I believe is what it was at the end of the game. And so Noble's DreamHack's hope is over with.
Yeah, I'm also kind of saddened by it because it's the same as the Enix situation to me, where we built up hope after 1 week, kinda, and now we're being disappointed. Except it was a different week, of course.
We kind of built up hope for Noble, not only after their performances last week, but what their remaining schedule looked like. Very much in their favor to win out. AI just wouldn't let that happen, no. Because Noble still has a game coming up against Flashpoint in which they're favored to win. If they had actually beaten AI twice, they would have ended the split with 12 points and had a much more would not be in DreamHack, wouldn't by guarantee, but they would have at least have something to say in this final week.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's be real. If they won, they would have a chance. That's how you have to say it.
The
Because
same.
now they can't make it back.
Okay, so by the way, I found the Twitch clip from the one I meant,
Oh,
indicative
Man Ray.
of Flashpoint's performance. I'm gonna
Is it
link
Man
it to
Ray?
you so we can watch it. It is,
it
yeah.
has to be.
Okay, the link is now working. Great.
It is working for me.
Yeah,
Well, it's not showing up for me. This is the thing. So just watch it. I'm gonna show it on stream as well, on video as well.
Aw.
No setup for the jungler. This Man Ray going to use the ultimate, but only clears
It
the
really
archers
does
with
hurt.
it. Missed the melees. May look a little curious, but oh no, he's going to get his backstop. Like blinks
well,
forward.
that's Flashpoint. That's all I'm
Yeah.
gonna say is that's Flashpoint. So getting back to this Noble thing, I mean,
Like, he just did some Flashpoint really well. Like, miss the ultimate, miss backfire, and then lazy back and die.
Yeah.
Getting
I
back
actually
to
think
this-
it was his only death in the game. He ended with like 1-1-1.
Yeah, let's get back to Noble. Just let's leave Flashpoint
Yeah.
behind us
Yeah,
for now.
let's get back to that.
Get to the
let's-
serious teams.
let's end Flashpoint's misery while they're still alive, shall we? Getting back to Noble though, I really wanted to see Noble make it. I'm disappointed, but I also Divios and Aurora and the best still have some pride, even though Zapman left them, and they want to. To me, they wanted to make it known that they're still very much a part of the league, and that this was a statement for them in ending Noble's DreamHack hopes. More of a statement for AI than it was against Noble.
Yeah, as you said, it shows that this team is still serious and the players on this team are still serious and to be worth mentioned. Yeah.
Well, I know
Well-
that Zapman's gone.
Yeah, Zapman's gone. I don't expect this team to be around the fall. At least not with their current players. I expect Divios to find his way out the door. He was already off Eager before they brought him back. So, in my opinion, Divios is gone. after this week. What is it? Remains to be seen who else leaves. But you can't tell me that the best in Aurora would just if those two decide to stay together, that ALG would not be looking at them over Matt Yankee and Niruma.
Well, over
It's also like
Niruma,
Eager wasn't really.
I wouldn't be so sure, but I think prioritizing best over Matt would definitely make sense. And also there are
I'm
other
saying,
teams. There are other teams
if
that
they
could be
st-
looking to pick up someone like
Yeah.
Best and Aurora, obviously.
but obviously, but I'm thinking that Weekend, captain of ALG, if he thinks the best in Aurora gives him the best shot at making worlds, regardless if he's friends with Niruma or Matt Yankee, he will make that decision
Honestly, I
because
don't.
he's already done.
Well, honestly, I don't think he has a reason to believe that right now because of how Niruma coming into ALG has revitalized them, as we saw in the split, obviously.
Yeah, again, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying, knowing Weekend, if he feels that way, it will happen. There's a good shot that it would happen. Weekend is the leader of ALG. He has pretty much the final say in rosters, how the roster shapes up. So,
Oh, wasn't that always what happened when Beacon was on any team? Even if the rest didn't want to.
yeah, good point.
So Weekend's just gonna go backstabbing another support.
It like I said, if he feels he can win worlds with them, yeah, I guarantee you he'll do it.
Yeah, and as I said, I just don't think he has a reason to think that. but if he did think that, I definitely would agree with you, honestly.
But look, I don't expect them actually be a team in the fall split. I see a lot of the players going their separate ways.
Yeah, since the start
That's
of the
just
split,
me,
it was rough for them. Even when they were still eager. I don't think any of us were really high on them, like even making DreamHack, because it just didn't look good. And now it carried down to AI.
Yeah, I still had some hope for them after week 1, obviously, because I was predicting them to make it to DreamHack actually. Still, because I thought Sam would fit in a bit better than he did. I was not expecting Sapman to leave, obviously. Now,
Well, I made the call. I made the call before week 1 that I didn't think Sam would have a good impact just because of what DJ meant to this team.
yeah, like my mindset was always that they would have to change their style to adapt to Sam, but I think they could have been a good team around him and around more traditional picks, because these players they have, Best, Aurora, Sap, if he was still there, and Devios, they are still some of the best players in NA, and they can still find success with traditional comps, I think. Or they could, I guess.
Oh, we still got to make the point that even though AI has struggled this week, struggled this split, they have found some splits with some top teams, most notably LG this past week. Luminosity didn't look good at all, really, this week. I mean, I don't know what else to say. LG was kind of coming into this week, we thought LG was clearly the number 1 team in NA. Thought they were head and shoulders above everybody else. But 1-3, only found at 1 point this week. I don't know about LG anymore. I mean, is it just because of Scary D? I mean, I know a lot of the community is blaming Scary D and the fact that he's not performing like he did at Worlds or during the spring split for LG's struggles this week. And you could make the case that that's actually true if you just watch the games, but from my perspective, and I've said this to myself watching the games over and over again, that Scary D was playing at an unsustainable level of success at the beginning of the spring split. He was playing out of his mind, this tremendous, and I just thought there was no way anybody could keep that level of success up. And now that he has come back down to what everybody else would say is bad for him, because just looking at how he was playing, he's still a much better Scary D now than he was during the Super Regionals for Season 3, in my opinion. I don't want to put all the blame on Scary D, though most of the community is looking at Scary D for their struggles this week.
Yeah, I think that's a fair person to put some of the blame on. Not all of it, obviously, because Smite is still a team game. But I think at the start of the spring split, I thought that Scary D had finally stepped up his game, and now it's really looking like he's going back down again to closer to where he was in previous seasons. And it's definitely gonna hurt Luminosity, right? Because they still need a strong solo laner to have success. And I think also, if we look at the fall split, looking ahead to there, I think if Team AI disbands and Divios finds a new home, and it opens up other solo laners in NA, maybe even Divios, that Scary could be gone from LG.
Well, see, I was thinking...
You don't need a good solo laner. You just look at Anatoly.
Yeah, that's a shot at Anatoly. Okay. Yeah. But as far as not needing a good solo laner goes, I don't know. We saw Benji at his best, and we saw Benji at his worst, just in this split alone. When he's at his best, United is a completely different team, and then when he is not playing as well as he usually is. So not having a solo laner, or not needing a solo laner, is, in my opinion, not relevant. Like, you need a solo laner, a good solo laner, to be a good team. You need a consistent solo laner to be a good team. Scary D, like I said, in the spring split, was playing, in my opinion, at an unsustainable level of success. There was no way he could keep that up for the rest of the year. And now that he has come back down to where everybody else is, in my opinion, because he was one of the worst solo laners in all of the SPL last season, during Season 3. And now he has come back down from that World's spring split run that he was on, and he has gotten to the same level as Kiki, as everybody, basically, except for Benji and Divios. He's pretty much on that same level as Kiki and Walrus and Aquarius, to me. He's on that second tier of solo laners right now for me. He's not as bad as he was during Season 3. And as far as moving, if Divios leaves AI, moving Scary D to a different place, I could potentially see that. I could also see Baskin leaving the mid lane and going back to and LG bringing in a new mid lane.
The best.
I hope it's... Well, see, my first thought was MLC Stealth. And I'm hoping it's not Stealth, because I like Stealth on this Noble roster. The best is an option for me.
See, what I think about
Yankee
Stealth... What I think about Stealth is that if they were going to bring him into LG, they would have done it already. Because they had more than enough chances to.
I want Omega back in the SPL.
Omega did start streaming again this weekend. I didn't know if anybody knew that. You mentioned Omega,
I
but
didn't,
he's...
actually.
he has started streaming again. I don't know if that's anything to count on for the future, but you can now watch him on stream again.
Yeah, so there's a chance of him maybe coming back as well. We'll see.
No, but honestly, I just think LG is inconsistent. Whole team,
Yeah,
not
because
only Scurry.
yeah, because
Yeah,
the
because
whole
it's
of NA is inconsistent right now.
Yeah, so I don't think it's right to put the blame on Scurry.
Yeah, but what I just mean also, yeah, but still, what I mean about stealth, just to clarify maybe a bit, because it might not be obvious, is stealth, I think, was trying to get on Luminosity in the fall split of last season, and they decided to go for Xenotronics instead, when Xenotronics is very questionably a better mid laner than stealth. And
Well, you
then again,
gotta
stealth was a free agent during the spring split, or at the start of the spring split this season, and LG again decided not to go for him and to switch Baskin to mid instead.
well, I can say something that could derail your whole argument there. Mask and Xenotronics, let's remember, played together on Denial during the spring split of season 3. Mask, LG wanted Mask, and they decided to bring in a mid laner that he had already had some synergy with, so as not to be as far behind as what teams would usually normally be with a new mid and a new jungle. So that I think they brought in Xenotronics over MLC Stealth simply because he already had that relationship with Mask. As far as Baskin goes, I think they had made the decision before Worlds last year that Baskin was going to join the team, and that Scary D and Xenotronics were both out. With Scary D's performance at Worlds, however, I think the team decided that Scary D had shown enough to bring him back for one more split, and that Baskin would then move to mid so that they wouldn't have to find another player for the mid lane. If Scary D did not perform as well as he did in the spring split, I think Scary D is off this team in the summer split and Baskin's back in the solo lane. So to me, it comes down to the synergy that Mask had with Xenotronics at the time, and the fact that Scary D played so well at Worlds.
I definitely wouldn't get into like saying that they already decided that
Yeah, it's
and Scurry would be out before Worlds. That's not. I don't think that's the case. No.
just speculation on my part. I think it was.
Yeah.
It's a good. It's a good. There's a good chance that that's what happened, but it's just not confirmed. It's just speculation on my part.
Maybe also MLC and Very Good and Chip didn't have the bet. It would just all be theories from now. You can't really say for sure.
Yeah, I think it's just, I don't know. I think a lot of teams are kind of avoiding Stealth, even though he is obviously a great mid laner. And I think that's part of what's hurting NA as a region overall. Because there are other players with these sort of egos or with these character issues that a Stealth might have, and that are being avoided by some teams due to it. So they're not getting together the best possible teams, honestly. Because if you think,
if it was just about this,
well, a lot of people probably like Weekend as well, I guess. Right? He might be different as a person than he is on stream. Just saying.
No, I kind of mean it in the wrong way.
But the thing that I mean is that that if you imagine an LG with a Divios in the solo lane, or with a Best or a Stealth in the mid lane and Baskin in solo, wouldn't you think that this team would be better than current LG? Sabo?
Yes.
Psycho?
Yes, I do think that, because I think Divios, right now, Divios and Benji are the best two solo laners in A. I think if Baskin goes back to the solo lane, give or take a week, he's going to be right there with Benji and Divios. So, it's just LG, either way, LG, just by replacing Scary D, gets better in the solo lane. Don't think Scary D is the problem. I think Scary D is that second tier down below Benji and Divios right now. So I don't necessarily think he's the problem, but I do see if Baskin goes to solo lane or Divios joins LG, I do think they're a better team, just simply because they're better solo laners than Scary D is.
Yeah, so yeah, but
No.
that's what I mean with NA having this issue of players avoiding each other for personal reasons, honestly. Because I think there's also this reason why Divios isn't on LG, maybe. For
I
example.
think it's the reason why Divios is not on Trifecta. That TSM split at the end of Season 2, where he was on the team with Snoopy and Eonic, who were on Trifecta, that everybody knows the bad blood that's there and the arguments that they had. None of the members of the team have hidden that fact. So I think the reason Divios is not on Trifecta and the reason he ultimately decided to go back to Eager is mainly because that Snoopy and Eonic just didn't want to play with Divios anymore. Because Trifecta did have a solo lane spot open, and Divios was a free agent at the time.
Yeah. And that is another good example, right? Because imagine a Trifecta with Divios. Would also arguably a much better team. But anyway, we're kind of getting off topic here. Where were we exactly? I kind of lost track.
LG, we're talking about LG going 1-3, and I brought up the fact that most of the community wants to blame Scary D, and I don't think it's solely on Scary D. I think it's, as Psycho said, it's very much LG struggling as a team when it was just Scary D.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say as well, because it obviously was a rough week for all of LG, and none of the players really looked impressive to me, outside of the last game they had against Trifecta. So you can sort of blame the entire roster for not stepping it up to the competition of United and Trifecta. Because you need players that can do that if you want to be a roster that finds success against this sort of top tier opposition.
Yeah, for me, there's too many ifs. Like, with what we were talking about. Like, we won't know for sure unless it happens. And I really don't want to see much change.
Well, I think if we're going back to overall NA power level discussions, I think we need to see changes if NA is to improve. But
Yeah, if we're talking about NA and EU, like,
Well,
I was just talking about NA in NA versus NA.
I mean, like you said, there's a lot of ifs. We're talking too many ifs. I mean, if AI splits up, if Zapman chooses not to come back, if Zapman does choose to come back, if Vedium decides to leave, there's just too many ifs for us to keep talking about.
yeah.
So I don't.
Okay, so
It,
do you have another point about LG? Because if you don't, then there is something that I would like to talk about now, and it is the other part to LG's loss, obviously, which was United beating them 2-0. What do we
Well,
think?
I wanted to save E United for last because we had that whole discussion last week about what we saw was going wrong with them and how we thought they can improve and who their leaders could be or should be. And just by watching them in that first 2-0 against LG, you can make an argument, or it's very clear in my eyes at least, that they went back and they watched the VODs and saw for themselves where they could improve. And they very much did that. I want to bring up a point in the game. I believe it was game 2 against LG where there was a fight in duo lane jungle where we saw last week in the exact same situation them chasing Noble all the way to the Phoenix and getting themselves caught out of position. Well, we kind of saw that situation coming in this LG set in game 2 with that fight in the duo lane jungle. But this time, as soon as they picked up Jeff, they got Jeff, and as soon as everybody else, the rest of LG made it to the back harpies, everybody on E United just turns and walks the other way. They did not chase any further than the back harpies. And that to me is just shows that they did go back and watch that mod and say, hey, we don't need to be doing this. So there's definitely improvement there just from that perspective, just by seeing that alone.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
that's a fair
that's. Yeah, I think that's one part of it, obviously, because they looked like more of a unit this week than they did in the previous one. I agree with you on that. What I also think played a big role is that we actually saw those carry performances that I mentioned last week were missing in the previous week 3, from them out of Benji and Verisial in this set against LG and also in the one against Flashpoint, although that obviously means a bit less there than it does on the other set.
For me, it's just improvement, like Sabo said. Like, United just learning from their mistakes and not repeating them. I don't really remember everything that happened in the game against Luminosity, but there was definitely some learning.
Well, let's review what we said last week about it. They overextended way too much.
I wasn't here last week, so.
Yeah.
You should have watched the WOD.
I should have, but
They overextended way too much. Their objective control was iffy. Still iffy, because there's got a lot to talk about on the objective control as far as E United goes. Didn't have the carry potential from the guys you expect to carry, and then they didn't have a clear leader. 3 of those 4 things to me looked like they were solved this week. Polar Bear Mike, I know we said Verisial needed to step up, or at least I thought Verisial needed to be the one that stepped up. But Polar Bear Mike stepped up for me this week and took over the leadership role. Clear. That much is clear to me. The objective control, they lost a lot of Fire Giants and Gold Furies that they probably shouldn't have. Should have been much cleaner in their objective control against LG than they were. Like you said, Benji and Verisial stepped up, pretty much carried all 4 games this week. And then we've already made the point of overextending being fixed this week. So the only thing that they still need to improve on is the objective control.
Yeah, I think that's a good sign for them, right? Because, but I think by what we said, it's already become clear that we think they're much improved now, and I think at least that if they manage to stay at this level or to maintain it more consistently, that they're going to be a better team overall going into the fall split if they decide to stick together with these 5 players.
It's a lot of ifs again if they decide to stick together.
Yeah, but
we'll address that.
I think for this team it is more likely than for a lot of the others we mentioned so far, honestly.
Yeah, I do agree with you that this team has more potential to stay together than the rest of the teams in the NA. Just because I think consistency wise, they're not there yet. They've had a very up and down summer split, but just going back to what we've said about them in week 1 and 2, E United is very much a team that's built to win in the fall when they have that synergy and when they have that all their issues worked out. So, E United could very potentially be the number 1 team in NA in the fall if they stick together.
Yeah, I think we both sort of have high hopes for this team, and I just want to elaborate on the point of me thinking that they will stick together, just to make it a bit more clear what I mean by that and why I think that. And I think it's because it is less obvious for United where their weak link lies than it is for a lot of the other teams we have right now. So it wouldn't really make sense to swap players for them, because you are never going to be sure as a United if the player that is going to come in instead will actually be a better fit for the team and improve the team overall, whereas for other teams it would be a bit more clear in that regard. Right, we already touched on Scary D for Luminosity. I think Final K is another person you can mention for Space Station, for example. And I think Kiki and Cynosure for Trifecta are players that would make sense to probably replace, or that where you could get an upgrade, a proper one. So I think other teams that are at the top of NA have more potential spaces where they can switch players and improve through that and get a guaranteed improvement through that.
Yeah, for United, it's just you don't know if a roster change would be a positive or a negative change. Because again, there's so many ifs. Like, we saw some. Like, let's just take the old United, which was enemy, and Payne kicking his whole team, and he still did well with it. So, like, you never know what will happen with the roster changes.
Yeah, but Payne is gone.
Which,
well, Payne is gone, but Payne is still there.
You say Payne is gone, and so there's a lot of ifs. But if E United were to make a roster change, I only see one roster change, and I only see one specific player coming over to E United, and that is if that man joins Space Station and Bedium becomes a free agent. The fact that Panda Cat was on the team mainly because Payne wanted to play with Panda Cat could be a potential landing spot for Bedium, because we know he's friends with Benji, we know he's friends with Chaos, and they bring 2 different styles. We said last week that somebody needed to be there to rein in Benji and Viriziel from going too far. Bedium is the polar opposite of Panda Cat, because Panda Cat will go very much be next to Benji and Betty, or be Barizial when they want to go in. So it's more of a side upgrade, if you ask me. But I could potentially, like, if they were to make a move, it's only swapping Panda for Bedium. But there's a lot of ifs still there.
Well, what if Zapman goes into the jungle? We talked about it a few weeks ago, that he would be willing to either play ADC or jungle.
Who would he be replacing? Just Chapo on AI, or who do you think?
Well, he's not replacing Mask, obviously. Varizial and Benji are friends, so I doubt he replaces Varizial. Dinosaur is playing way too well for Trifecta to remove him. I mean, Mirage on Flashpoint, maybe, but who wants to join Flashpoint? And that's being as nice as I can put it. As far as when it comes to Flashpoint, nobody wants to join Flashpoint.
Hey, maybe this is the key to making this roster good. Is bringing in Zap as jungle. Then the question would be, though, why would you bring Zap in as jungle when you could bring him in as hunter to replace Sobs?
Well, that to me, that would be Shadow Q trying to recapture his glory days of bringing Shadow Q and that duo lane back.
That is also something worth mentioning. I think Shadow Q was during season 1 fed up with Zapman completely. That's why Dig back then made their swap from Shadow Q, I think, to Dare to Care or someone, because Shadow Q just didn't want to play with Zapman anymore.
We also saw Aurora and Zapman get back together after a big fight as well. So never say never, but we've said it already. I've said it about 1 billion times. Shadow Q is much more. Shadow Q should just retire and become a coach. I don't think Shadow Q recapturing his glory days are realistically a possibility for him anymore. Just retire and become a coach, buddy. It's the best thing for you right now.
Who would you bring in instead of him? That's what I wonder.
Is that a Shadow Q?
Yeah. Because the support pool in NA also seems kind of shallow right now.
Yeah. Pain Divion. Possibly,
yeah.
But
I
pairing
forgot that
Pain with that. Pairing Pain with Zap is a whole nother. I think that's a whole nother issue in and of itself. I don't know if their personalities clash as well as maybe the fan inside me would like. They in time.
Vivian was the support for ALG in the Gauntlet, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there's also Aurora. We've talked about if Nirmal is replaced, which we don't know if he will or not. I mean, the support pool in NA is very thin, but you still got some options. Pain, Aurora, Vivian, Nirmal. I mean, Shadow Q, in my opinion, is not on the same level as the rest of those players we just mentioned.
Yeah.
It's very hard to say that about a guy like Shadow Q, but it's the truth, at least from how I see it.
Yeah. So what were we talking about? Already
About
forgot.
E-United.
Yeah. Okay, so
You get
one more thing
There's so
about
many-
United. Panda Cat. He did well this week.
yeah, and that's why I don't want to say if Vedium becomes a free agent, that Panica is necessarily on or off this team because they bring two levels of different views. You know, Panda's the fighter, Vedium's the farmer. So it's a side upgrade for me if Vedium joins the United over Panda. But Panda played really good this week. Benji was insane. Uh, Polar Bear Mike, I don't think gets enough credit, but supports as a general don't get enough credit for what they do in games. Polar Bear Mike was a major reason why I see that they did pick up 6 points and are very much still in that DreamHack conversation right now. Just the whole team as a whole played really well this week and much better than what we thought they were capable of after giving their last 2 weeks performances. I brought up the fact that objective control still needs to improve, but I think they know that as well because you just can't give up 2 Fire Giants and a Gold Fury or however many Gold Furies they gave up. And I think they gave up like 2 or 3 Portal Demons as well when they should not have given them up. So still a lot to work on for this team, but much better than they looked the previous 2 weeks.
It looks like the start of the season Dignitas for me. Like we saw them, their objective control was not really that good. I don't think it was I don't know if it was a official game or if it was a scrim, but they gave up 2 towers and a Gold Fury for free, and now they're like at the top of EU. Like you'll get there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're not giving up.
I think Dig is. Go ahead.
I think E United is not so much giving up free objectives as is that they have control of these objectives and they're not zoning properly or they're taking fights in a position where the other team can steal. I think as far as objective control is compared to Dig earlier on in the split, Dig could just beat the teams outright. I mean, look at Dig's schedule earlier. They didn't really play anybody until these last 2 weeks to mention. So if Dig gives up these objectives early on in the split, it's not too much to read into. E United is very much in.
No, I wasn't talking about the split. I was talking about the season.
Oh, you're talking about the fall or the spring split as well. Yeah, I see that too.
Yeah, I think you can draw some parallels even more between the Stake roster and the United roster, because both also have a bit of an aggression issue. We saw that out of Dig chasing kills very deeply against Burrito and Elevate in week 1, I thought. And it hasn't come back to haunt them. Well, it didn't, and it did United to some extent, obviously, against Noble. In contrast to that, but this both have a playstyle where they are highly aggressive because the players themselves just like to play that way.
Variety and Benji very much like to fight you too. So solo laners kind of lead the charge and for both teams and just saying, hey, let's fight.
Yeah. So what else is there to talk about as far as games are concerned from the NA side? What other relevant thing happened?
Only other thing that I can think of is Space Station Gaming 2-0ing ALG. ALG is not eliminated, but it really makes it a lot harder for ALG to make it. When we talked about this last week, how important this set was for both teams.
Yeah, I think
It's a lot easier.
I think we've talked about the importance of this set ever since week 2 or something. Like it was already clear that those teams would both have chances for DreamHack contention, and that's what this set meant now as well.
I just think it's a good thing that one team had been able to find the 2-0, because a split really didn't help either team. It would. But Space Station Gaming, I keep wanting to call them Super Saiyan Gaming, but that's just the anime fan in me. But Space Station Gaming, finding the 2-0 means they only need a split this week. If they split this week, they're guaranteed. Even if they lose, they still have a very good shot at making it. ALG, if ALG had found the 2-0, then realistically all they needed this week was a split as well, but not. Now that they didn't find the 2-0, it's very hard for them to make it to DreamHack without a couple of things going their way. So
Yeah.
Space Station, just by finding the 2-0 in this split, in a very important split, is just it. What else can you say? It just almost guarantees them a spot at DreamHack now.
Yeah.
Next week will be an interesting one in this regard, because we will see Allegiance against Trifecta. And if there's like 5 teams who can still make it to DreamHack in NA, and if ALG win the game against Trifecta and E United lose, then ALG should make DreamHack.
ALG. Well, let's just get it right into the DreamHack. What has to happen for each team to make DreamHack?
Yeah, because it's gonna be tough in NA to talk about this as well, because it's so very complicated.
Yeah, we've got about like 17 or 18 different possibilities that can happen. Starting with ALG, since that's what we're on now. ALG wins. They still have to have E United split with Space Station.
Well,
They would at least split.
And
If
then that would
E
be
United-
a four-way tie.
Or
Assuming Luminosity and Trifecta.
wait, if they split with Space Station, wouldn't that would put E United at 11 points as well? So we'd have 3
If-
teams at 11 points, and doesn't E United have the 2-0 over Legions? Or is it the other way
No,
around?
Allegiance owns the 2-0 over E United. So if
There's
this
the
is the start,
Trifecta game, and also ALG splitting with Luminosity.
yes, if ALG 2-0s, that'll put them at 11 points. It's them tied with Trifecta. But with the 2-0s, if they 2-0 Trifecta, that means they have the tiebreaker over Trifecta. But E United wins, they finish with 12 or 13 points. Space Station Gaming would then finish with 13 points. And LG would need to lose to create a 4-way tie at 11 points. If LG finds a split, they could, and Trifecta loses, doesn't matter what happens to the Flashpoint or to the E United and Space Station split, LG would be in. So in the 4-way tie scenario, say LG loses it, and Trifecta loses, and E United split. A 4-way tie scenario, that would put E United and ALG in, because ALG has the 2-0 over E United and Trifecta.
Yeah.
E United has the 2-0 over LG and the split with Trifecta, which means E United would get that third spot, and LG and Trifecta would be out.
Wait, so what does the head-to-head look like for LG? They obviously lost against the United, and
they
split with
they split with
Trifecta and
AL.
Allegiance, right?
They split with Trifecta. Yes, they split with the other two teams.
So yeah, they've got the worst head-to-head out of any team at 2-4.
Yeah, 2 and 4. Yeah.
United has a 3-3, I think.
Yes.
And Trifecta has a... it's confusing. Trifecta would also have... Would they have a 2-4 as well? I'm not sure.
But if Luminosity win their game, they are guaranteed for DreamHack, I think.
All Luminosity has to...
Yeah, those two teams,
Oh.
Trifecta and LG, have... If they win their games, they are guaranteed for DreamHack.
All LG has to do is split and have Trifecta split. Because E United 2-0's Space Station Gaming, E United and Space Station Gaming both have 13 points. Trifecta would have 12
would have
points
12.
along.
Tied
With-
with Luminosity though, so it would be a
So they'd have to play the tiebreaker game. So it's let's just go over the simplest way for each team, because it's
basically, simply put, like all the 5 top teams can still make DreamHack.
and we'll, like I said, let's just go over the simplest way for each team instead of going the long route and saying this happens and this team in, and or this happens, this team's out. Simplest way for each team is E United, Trifecta, and LG win 2-0 split, 2-0 over every team. All 3 of them are in. If I almost said Super Saiyan Gaming again. If Space Station Gaming splits, it's all they need, and they're in. ALG wins and E United split, ALG is in. That's the simplest way for every team.
Okay. So, things are weird in NA. You are a weird region. Just saying.
Who do you expect to make DreamHack?
At this point, I do not know, because I do not know how any of these teams are going to play this week, because they are random as fuck.
I think
That's actually the only way to put it. A splash.
I think Space Station Gaming is in, because I think Trifecta and ALG split, and then I think E United is in, because I think E United 2-0 Space Station, and then LG has a
Well, then wouldn't Space
LG.
Station be at 13? That still put them.
No, if
yes, but they
LG,
would.
if LG and Luminosity lose, if LG and Trifecta win, LG and Luminosity, that's the same team. If LG and Trifecta win and Space Station loses to United, United is at has the same points as Space Station, and they have to head-to-head, so they would be 3rd and Space Station would be 4th.
Space Station splits puts them at 14 points, and nobody can pass them at 14 points. Like, nope. Yes, LG and
But then United wouldn't beat them if they split, right? Like,
yeah, E United has the 2-0 Space Station, and I think E United does 2-0 Space Station.
I have my doubts about that, because Space Station also looked really good this week. So I'm not sure that they're actually gonna get 2-0'd here.
I don't
But-
even know about the United.
But
like,
you're asking me. But you're asking me who I think makes it.
Yeah, I understand. I wasn't asking you that. I was Psycho.
I was asking.
Psycho's asking me who I think makes it. Space Station, I think makes it because Trifecta and ALG split. I think LG 2O's AI they make it, and since Space Station and E United have the same number of points, E United gets that second seed over Space Station. But since Trifecta only ends with 12 points, that would put Space Station in at the third spot. So
Oh, so you're saying LG, United, and Space Station make it?
Yeah, me
that's
as
what
well.
I'm saying. Yeah.
No, wait, no. I don't think United is going to make it. I think it's just going to be Space Station, Luminosity, and Trifecta. Because I do not see United 2-0ing Space Station, and I do not see Trifecta losing a game to ALG in their current state. Because
Well-
Trifecta has looked really good
See,
as well.
it comes down to me the fact that Trifecta and ALG play first. So if Trifecta does not 2-0, Space Station's guaranteed to make it. Because then only LG and E United could place above them. They're guaranteed that third spot if Trifecta does not 2-0 ALG. Now, Space Station and E United play second. If Space Station has nothing to play for, if they're already in, then the same thing goes for what we could potentially see in EU, and that's the jank picks, and them not taking the game as seriously as they should. So it very much the schedule is what makes me think E United 2-0s, because I do believe ALG and Trifecta split. It's just what order they go in is basically what I'm saying.
We'll see. Like, honestly, I'm not gonna... It's so hard to make predictions for NA. Seriously. Anything could happen there, and it's weird.
It's crazy, it's weird, but it's fun because we have a reason to watch on Sunday.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of any of these 5 teams, you have a reason to watch.
Yeah. Good.
Whereas if you're a fan of Dignitas, Energy, or Obey, and you already know you're going to DreamHack, you can take this week off and say, "Hey, my team's made it. I don't have to watch this week." But there's a lot left to be decided in NA to go too much further into it. Let's just go into our MVPs this week. What do you guys think? I'll let y'all start.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna start, and for EU, I'm gonna give my MVP award for this week to Adapting, because he had 2 really good games. I think it was 2. He had a really good week, just in general. Looked good in every game and played a vital role in getting his team this split against Dignitas as well. And obviously the 2-0 against Poppy, where he just shredded everyone, which was insane. And as far as NA is concerned, I'm going to give it to Aninster, who only played 1 set this week. But in that set, it was that vital set that we mentioned, Space Station against ALG, where they managed to get the 2-0. And he was obviously largely responsible for the comeback that they made in the second game of that set. And it really cemented them as a DreamHack team now. So he deserves some praise for that. And he also obviously looked good in their first game against Allegiance. So those are my MVPs for this week.
Yeah, for me, EU is also Adapting. Because, like, he made the Pappies look like they didn't look like an SPL team against adapting. I actually think he had 25-0 or a similar stat line.
Yeah, he was 10-0 in the first game and 15-0 in the second one.
There's not much else to say about that one. And for an A, I'm actually gonna go with Benji. Like we saw what E United did in their games. Yeah.
I'm in agreement with both of you as far as EU goes. Adapting for reasons already stated had an outstanding week this week, and the Adapt King returns to form. So he's my EU MVP. As far as NA goes, I wanted to give it to Benji just based on what he did this week, how well he played, and what both sets meant to E United. But I can't overlook or understate what Polar Bear Mike did this week. And supports don't get enough love as it is, so I'm going to give my NA MVP to Polar Bear Mike.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of leadership come out of from him this week. I saw just he stepped up for me as far as leadership goes on E United, and he made a great impact. And if I'm considering it's a tie between Benji and Polar Bear Mike, I'm gonna give it to Polar Bear Mike just because Polar Bear what supports don't get enough love as it is, and they do a lot of stuff that doesn't get shown up in the stat line. So
I'm pretty sure this is the first support MVP award that we're giving out. So they definitely do not get enough love. Still gonna give mine to Anister.
anything else that we want to talk about? Do we want to talk about Eager?
Let's wait with that. I think the situation's still developing somewhat. I say we wait, and maybe comment on it if we want to comment on it later on.
If we want to talk about something, we should talk about the buffs that Dashi got and if we will see her at DreamHack.
Yeah, I'm not sure still. Because there are still some issues with Dashi, obviously, with her relative unsafety, even though it might be mitigated a bit in an SPL environment. But she's still not the safest god. That automatically makes her less likely to be picked, and she's sort of gimmicky with her only one really viable combo, and that one being hard to pull off if the enemy sees it coming, because they can quite easily move out of the way or turn around you because they're going to see you coming in very early on. And her ult is still a great ability, even though it is way too easily countered, of course. But I'm not sure it's going to be enough to make her a valuable pick. And
yeah, I'm gonna say.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna say no to seeing Dodgy and DreamHack. As you look at the stuff she likes to do, there's just better picks, in my opinion. You want to pick her for her ult and her to be a beads burner. Ares and Hamats do that better than what she can. So, just better picks in her role or for what she wants to do that the teams can pick better. Now, you could teams could find a way to use her that maybe we haven't thought of, but just looking at it, I would say no.
For me, she feels like Loki, but not really.
Okay.
She's like yeah, like her 3 is supposed to be the good skill, like the one you want to use the most to get in and out. But right now it has the cooldown is like, I think it's around 16 seconds, which is like way too much for what she wants to do. It isn't enough to. She can either use it to get in and uh, try to kill someone, but then she has no escape, and is either forced to use her ultimate or somehow make her team save her.
She uses her 2 to escape, but it's not a perfect one, obviously, because it's not a
Well, yeah, you can
dash.
still.
Well, it
Yeah, like
just
if
goes
you
back
catch
to
her, if you stun her, it's just not. The 2 is not going to do anything.
just goes
Yeah.
back to the fact that there are a lot better picks for what she wants to do than her. Serket, if she can dodgy, can dive
Yeah.
people, get a kill. She can't really get out. Serket can get it, dive people, get a kill, get out. Her matches a lot better beats Burner on his Fear No Evil than she does on her Palo Wallow, or however you pronounce the ultimate. Like, there's just too many better picks, in my opinion, for what she wants to do to justify it.
Honestly, if Serket wants to actually commit to a kill, she's also gonna burn both her escapes usually to pull it off, because she has to use her free or a blink to get in, and then has to use her one in place to really get enough damage off to actually kill someone. So
Well, you can blink in, get your damage off with
Yeah.
your one, and then 3 out.
yeah, but I
You
think
can
there's some value to Dashi being able to do a similar combo with the free 1 and 2 out on a much lower cooldown, because Blink obviously has a very high cooldown.
Like,
And
you
it's-
can't even really utilize Blink on Daiji because, like, sure, you
Yeah,
go in, you use your 1, use your 2, possibly, and 3 to get out, and it's not enough damage.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. What I'm saying is, like, Dashi, Blink into 1 obviously isn't enough damage. She needs the free there as well. But her full combo, if we accept the Blink as a combo tool for Serket, that is part of her full combo, which is the Blink 2-1 auto attack free out. For Dashi, she has her full combo on a much lower cooldown, because, as you mentioned, the free is on 18 seconds, I think, or something, and the 2 is also on I think, at around the same cooldown, which is obviously much lower than a Blink, which is also reduced by CDR. So Dashi can free in 1 and 2 out a lot more often than Serket can do the same thing with Blink.
You also got to look at the gods around her that can be picked to counter her, especially in the support row. Ganesh right now, his 2, the silence on his 2 can interrupt whatever Daji wants to do. Athena, we see Athena from time to time. She can taunt Daji out of her combo. If Daji doesn't get that full combo off, it's really hard for her to find a kill. So having Ganesh or Athena, a Terra stun or Terra root, Kepri root, whatever it is, even a Geb shield, it's a lot of potential to stop her from being able to get her damage off when she dives in.
Yeah, but to be fair, the same thing also applies to a Serket. She's obviously also screwed if an Athena taunts her after she blinks in. That's why you get
but
beats.
as long as she has one of her escapes up, she doesn't need anybody around her to get out.
She can still be blown up in 2 seconds.
Yes,
in a 2-second taunt.
Dodgy and Serket can get blown up. But if Dodgy is alone, and if Serket's alone, if that burst is not there, Serket can jump out with one of her escapes. Dodgy needs somebody around her to be able to use the ability to get out.
Yeah, but I
So-
think at a pro level, she should have someone around.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even if it's generally a way you play, but if you have a Dodgy and you know that her escape is tied to an ally in those life or death situations, then you need to play around that, and you need to have people near her whenever she goes in dangerous territory, sort of, in my opinion. And that's obviously a disadvantage as well, right? So it obviously makes her a worse pick as well. So I still don't think we're going to see her picked. If we are going to see her picked, it's going to be in a really janky team comp, or in a really cheesy team comp, I guess you could say. Probably with a Morrigan, if Morrigan isn't just completely banned out at DreamHack. But yeah, that's the only way I can really see her being picked and actually having success.
Oh, we'll see. They have a month to decide how they want to use her, because she won't. Even though she will be available in ranked for this week, she will not be available in the SPL until DreamHack. So these teams have plenty of time to play with her and figure out if she's there or not. We obviously don't think she will make an appearance at DreamHack, but given a month, given a month with the teams that we have going to DreamHack right now, not a 0% chance we see her. I say it's about a 10% chance we see her at DreamHack. So I'm just gonna say no, we don't see her.
Psycho?
Yeah, probably a no.
So probably no Daji, that is
Well,
the
I think
main
Morrigan
conclusion.
and Ares in the same team, and yeah,
I think Morrigan might become a top ban going into DreamHack. Because she's
Yeah, Morrigan's
obviously
actually
had a
very
lot
good
of
right
success in the SPL, right?
the one thing I love about Morrigan is like you can play her anywhere. It doesn't really matter if you're mid, jungle. Hell, you can even support with Morrigan and solo as well.
Benji
Yeah.
do it. We know Kiki likes it. I'm pretty big on the fact that Morgan can ADC as well. So
Oh,
build her with attack speed and the fact that she has that cleave on her auto attack and a good wave clear on her too. Yeah, she can ADC and clear the wave and be a hunter fairly well.
yeah, okay, I don't know about that, but sure then.
I want to see it now.
I'll take your word on it.
Build Polynomicon and Fatalis and see if I'm wrong.
Oh wait, she has built-in chin size. or does she not? Yeah,
Yeah, she does.
she has built-in chin
Basically,
size. Great. Yeah, so Morrigan ADC. You heard it here first.
I've played it a couple times and it works fairly well.
Yeah, I'll just take your word for it. But still, I think if she is playable in 3 or 4 roles, or 5, we might end up seeing her become a ban at DreamHack, a top ban.
It's kind of like Fenrir is when he gets released. Can play all those roles, but we have to wait till Fenrir is actually released. You know.
Yeah, I'm still excited about that. After how long has it been now? 4 years.
Still waiting. Still waiting.
Fenrir. Good. Does anyone else have anything else to say, or any memes to bust out?
Yeah, actually, I have a question. I am not really sure because I didn't check this week, but is Osiris still a 100% pick or ban?
I think so.
I'm actually curious.
I don't know, but I think so. Pretty. I
I
mean,
think
we've seen.
Bologna lost like one game when through, when she wasn't picked or banned. But Osiris had a 100% Big Ben ratio at the end of week 3. But I'm not sure about this one.
Oh, its spreadsheet's not updated yet, it seems.
I think I want to say yes. I mean, I've seen him a lot this week, and if he's not picked, he's banned usually. I want to say yes. He's still 100%, but they haven't been updated yet, so I might be wrong. But I want to say, yeah, he's still perfect.
I think he might be as well, yeah.
Well, we'll find out till the next time.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Okay, you had another point about Fenrir, Sabo, or did you want to skip it?
No, I was just going to say Fenrir being released will be our 100th god. We're 11 gods away from our big 100 now, so look for it. Fenrir release. There you go. Fenrir release. That's the 100 confirmed right here.
Yeah. Good. So, with that, I think we're done for this week. Again. I hope you all liked this episode this time around. If you did, be sure to actually leave a like on YouTube or SoundCloud or wherever else you're watching this. If you want to see next week's episode and the episodes after that, you can always follow us on SoundCloud or on YouTube. Just on SoundCloud, something worth mentioning is that only the latest episode will ever be available due to their upload time limits. Yeah. And as well, you can follow us on Twitter at Tuesday Night Smite. You see it in the screen in the bottom left as well for updates for our predictions as the week goes on for all the games. And if you have any feedback for us, feel free to leave it wherever you may like, on Reddit, here in the YouTube comments, in the SoundCloud comments, on our Twitter feed. Because we're always looking for feedback, always looking to find ways in which we can improve our podcast. So yeah. So in the end, I just want to thank you all for watching this or listening to this. I want to thank you two guys for being here with me today. It was, as always, an honor, and I hope we see you and our audience again next week. So that was it for today. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.